Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. The name is Sandrine Wait, for those of you who don't know. Okay, so for this series I decided to ask my friends and co-workers and associates, like, what are you doing in Japan? Now for those of you who don't know, I've been living in Japan for 3.5 years, and I've realized that I have a plethora of persons around me from different countries. So I decided today, get a little bit nosy, force into them business, and to find out, why are you here? Why are you here? What brought you here? What made you stay? Do you have plans on leaving? What are some of the things that you have accomplished here? What are some of the things you hope to accomplish? Get some information so that I may be able to educate you guys. Alright, I hope you guys enjoy this series, and always remember to like and to subscribe and to share this content with somebody who it may benefit, or just for entertainment purposes because you like me. But moving on, I hope you guys enjoy this series, and please remember, just like the hashtag says, feel the fear and do it anyway. Over here we fear nothing. Correction, we do fear, but at the end of the day we'll get things done. So follow me now. Let us get a little bit personal with these individuals. Alright?
Hi everyone.
Hey everyone. My name is Michael Daly, and I'm a 3rd-year jet, and I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. I'm from San Fernando, Palmy, San Fernando. Shout out to peeps.
And hi everyone, my name is Nisa, and I'm a 2nd-year jet. I am from the lovely Davie down in South. The best doubles you get. Not really, but
debatable.
Yeah. Debatable. So today we're going to talk to you more about our jet experience and what's it like from the application to getting on that plane and to settling into your new life here in Japan. So we hope to offer you some great tips, and please stay tuned and let's go.
Well, I found out about JET because I studied Spanish as my degree in UE, and I was part of CLL. So the JET program was ever present, always there for me. The only thing about it was I didn't know much details about it, but my senpai, the person who was a year above me, Anastasia, she told me about the JET program, and she really encouraged me to apply. And when I came back from another program, I met her in CLL when I decided to study Japanese, because she was my Japanese teacher. So that's how I found out about it, word of mouth.
I think it's the same for me. So I studied law and I completed my law certificate. I'm a qualified attorney at law. However, I wanted a change. While I was working at the Ministry of Education, I had a co-worker who was like, hey, I know you're into like Japan and just Asian culture in general. Have you heard about the JET program? I'm like, no, what's that? So since then I just started doing a lot of research, and the research was very limited when it came to Trinidad, except for the information that the Japanese embassy to Trinidad would have posted on their website. So most of my information came from other countries, other people from like America, the big 7 countries that came to Japan. And eventually I was like, you know what, I'm gonna sign up. So that's how I found out about it. Word of mouth.
Well, Lisa, you wanna start first?
So I am not sure how they advertise the opening of the application process. The way I found out was through the website. They basically say in big red, application period is now open and it will be ending at this time. So in order to sign up for the following year, you have to do it this year. So example, we're in 2020. If you want to get through on the 2021 program, you need to sign up in 2020. It's a long, strenuous process, but
I'm not so sure about the 2021 program,
of course,
because of the corona. So I'm not entirely sure. For more details, I'll advise you to go on the website.
Yes.
But what I would say is that how I found out was that usually the embassy places an ad in the newspapers, so you can find it about it in the newspapers, and also from the Facebook page.
Yes.
So they would also post when applications are open.
Yeah. So because of Corona, this year is definitely a bit different. It's a gray area. All embassies across the world who are involved in the JET program is just not sure what to do at this point. Even us here, we're not sure when new people are going to come in. So this advice is not for this Corona time period. It's for when things get back to normal.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so check the website, and also, like Michael said, the Trinidad embassy's
Facebook.
Okay.
Okay.
So doing paperwork is quite a lot to get ready. On the embassy's website, you would see they require 3 sets of documents. The first is the originals of all the documents they need and 2 sets of copies. I personally had a lot of issues and struggles when it came to getting certain documents, specifically my transcript from UE. It was a nightmare. I don't know if it's the same for you.
It wasn't that difficult for me to get my transcript, but what I would advise to anybody who are applying is, if you're thinking about the JET program, you should probably start preparing from September. Application period is usually open about October or November. But if you can get your transcripts before, transcripts are usually valid 6 months before, 6 months after you receive them. So if you can get the transcripts, also if you're thinking about applying, get the letters of recommendation.
Yes.
If you can get those as well done before, because for me that was the more difficult thing, to get the letters of recommendation, because my professors were a bit busy, so it took some time to be able to get them.
Yeah, for me, recommendation letters was easy. I just asked a couple of my friends or people I would have worked with. My transcripts was the hell of it. So because they require 2 sets, the original and copy, I initially went into UE and I requested 2 sets, and I specifically told them I needed in 2 separate envelopes, because for official transcripts they seal it, and I needed to get one to make the copy to send it with the other set. I went back to collect it after the time frame, I think it was 2 weeks. They put both copies in the same envelope and it was already sealed officially, so I could not open this to make copies to put within the other sets that JET requires. So my advice is, go order 1 set in one form and then go and order another set, and the both will come sealed. Keep one sealed and then open the other one, the second one, and make copies from that. And I also had similar issues with law school, Hewden Law School, but they were much easier to speak to and get everything ready on time. So like Michael said, definitely do these things early. Like, it seems simple, but get it done early, you would be great.
Okay, now the statement of purpose is about creating like your mission, what you want to do in Japan. Everyone has their own different style and approach to it, but I would advise that you try to speak from the heart, but also try to remember that you're trying to create a mission. So you need to be professional. You need to state clearly what you want to do, your goals there, and what you want to contribute, not just to Japan but to Trinidad after you complete the program. That's also, I think, important.
Like Michael said, just piggybacking off, basically these people are pro. When they read these statements of purpose, they can weed out those who just want a free ride to Japan, who just want to come here and experience and have fun, and those who really have a passion for Japanese culture and wanting to be a cultural ambassador, not only for Japan and Trinidad but the Caribbean as a whole. So definitely speak from the heart when you're writing your statement of purpose. Don't try to be something you're not. Don't try to be over professional. Be yourself, and I think once you're genuine, they definitely can tell from just your writing who is there and who's just going for the free ride. So be yourself, put who you are on paper, and I mean, the process is a mystery how they select, but I've never heard anything other than if you put yourself, you're gonna get there.
Yes, and I'd also like to say that you shouldn't really give up either. I applied twice before I was accepted. So the first time I applied, I made it to the interview, and if I'm being completely honest, I didn't take the interview as seriously as I should have. and I probably didn't apply myself that well, so I ended up on the waiting list. And it's very competitive. It's over like 200 people that apply. Usually they only take about 20 persons.
My year was actually 15 or maybe 14 students.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're looking at, you have a 1 in 10 chance, you know, to get in, or even more, because sometimes it's getting even more popular and more people are applying.
Yeah.
And some of the people that applied, and I know who applied and didn't get through, these people have master degrees and they have degrees in education, and so it's not just about your qualifications, it's also about how you apply yourself and how you what you put in a statement of purpose and what you say in the interview.
Yeah. So going on to the interview section of it, maybe it was like a month or two, I received a email. Most of my correspondences was via email, and we were told in my year specifically that we had to create a lesson plan and email it before the interview date. Didn't you have that?
I didn't think we had to email it, but we had to walk with like a copy of it.
Okay, so we had to do a lesson plan and email it before our interview. Anything about Caribbean or Trini culture, sorry. Was it the same?
Yeah, well, I think for ours we had to teach a grammar point using a cultural like context, something like that.
So mine wasn't that specific. It was just teach something about Trini culture. My interview, I was so nervous. I was shaking. I was everything you could possibly be. And I just remember getting there, and my friend, she was there for moral support, but the interview went smoothly for me.
Oh, and speaking about getting there, I would advise you to get there as early as possible if you can. Maybe if your interview time is, I don't know, 10 o'clock, get there 9 o'clock, because you may not know where it is if you've never been to that area. So you want to locate the area, and you want to locate the interview section, and you want to calm yourself before. The interview.
Yeah. So usually interviews is at CLL in UE.
Center for Language Learning in UE, and it's usually you'd have a member from the Japanese embassy.
Yes.
You'd have a member of the Japanese teaching staff at the CLL. You'd also have a member of the JET Alumni Association, and you'd also have someone from Japan would come, like a member from the Ministry of Education would come to evaluate.
Yeah, and don't be scared if you don't speak a lick of Japanese. I still don't speak Japanese. I've been living here for a year. I only know like common phrases, but during my interview, the Japanese guy, he was asking me a question in Japanese, and I remember the night before just learning how to say, sorry, I don't understand. So I was like, no nihongo wakarimasen. And everybody on the panel just started laughing, and I'm like feeling so terrible about myself, and they were like cracking up, right? And he's like, okay, and then he proceeds to ask me another question in Japanese, and in my mind I'm like, yo dude, I just said no nihongo wakarimasen, right? And you asking me another question. So I just repeated the same answer, and everybody just laughed, and at that point I knew everybody was like chill, so I was like feeling more comfortable in that situation.
Yeah, and it definitely, well, at least it depends on your interview, but my interview, I definitely had like a good cop, bad cop thing going on.
Really?
So they would have like one person ask you a lot more difficult questions. For my interview, they kind of focus a lot on why particularly Japan, because this is like the third program that I'm on. So I've been to Colombia, I've been to France, now I'm here in Japan. So they really stress on that, like to kind of get an idea of my motivation. So I know for some people they touch on like their teaching experience, or for some people they touch on like the ability to survive living abroad. I think it's important.
Yeah. So I got those line of questionings like, how would I deal with conflict in the Japanese classroom or like with other teachers? How will I adapt? What's my main concerns or anything I'm worried about moving there, especially the fact that I put on my form I don't speak Japanese. They also asked me like if they were to walk into one of my classrooms, what would it look like? So I had to on the spot tell them all the right key things that you need to say in an interview. So don't take the interview for granted. Like
Definitely.
Michael said, he would have done that before.
Yes.
definitely prepare yourself as much as you can.
If you can do some mock interviews with your
Yeah.
friends or co-workers, your family, anybody, if it's just you in front of the mirror,
Yeah.
do a mock interview, get idea of the gist of questions.
Yeah.
If you look online, I think Tofugu website, they have some information, Gaijin Pot, they'll have like a sample mock questions. If you look on the chat website itself, they'll also have some information there.
And definitely reread your statements of purpose before your interview, because they actually have your file with them and they go through your statements of purpose, and they'll be like, oh, you said blah blah blah, explain further.
So definitely don't put anything you don't really know about.
Yes.
So if you said, okay, I want to visit Aomori or something like that, which I put, and they asked me questions about Aomori. Luckily, I actually really had an interest in Aomori, but if I didn't really know much about it, I would have been completely stuck in the interview.
And do not lie on your statement of purpose. I mean, this goes without saying, but a lot of people try to embellish their own qualifications or skill sets just to make it sound good, but this information does not stop at the interview, because whatever you put there goes straight to your school that you'll be working at when you get to Japan. Because I was so shocked that the teachers already had like a file on me, the fact that I'm Muslim, I don't eat pork. I said I studied Spanish in high school, I'm a beginner in Japanese. Like, they knew everything about me. So be honest and be clear about who you are and what you do and what you like and these things, and don't lie or embellish.
So placements and like receiving, because you won't know like when, because okay, so first we'll talk about what happens after the interview.
Yeah, okay.
So after the interview, at least in my case, I wasn't sure if I was successful. You had a long waiting time, maybe 2 months or 3 months waiting time until you figure out whether or not you're on the what they call the waiting list, or
you got through.
Yeah. And then you still have some more time to figure out where you've been placed, exactly where you've been placed. And there's a difference between prefectural jets and then jets with placement with a Board of Education.
Yes, city jets.
City jets. So I was a city jet.
And I'm a prefectural jet. And what that means basically is that our boss in Japan is 2 different people. So for Michael, he's city. So his city Board of Education handles his affairs. And I'm prefectural, which means the prefecture, the bigger. Well, we live in Niigata, so my prefectural board will be the Niigata Board of Education. They are in charge of me. And the difference being is that where you teach.
Yeah. Well, I work at elementary and junior high school.
And I teach senior high school only.
Yes.
Yeah, and this has a lot of differences when it comes to benefits and lifestyles and how many schools you have.
Just generally experience in Japan.
Yeah, so you know that ESID, every situation is different. It definitely is. So a piece of advice is, when you're coming on a jet program, come with no expectation. Alright? So for me, I have four high schools. I teach at 4 high schools, and I've just recently been added one more because jets have left and there's no one to replace. But 2 of my schools are an hour drive from where I live. So even though I get reimbursed for gas at the end of each month, they calculate the mileage, I still have to drive 1 hour twice a week to get to my schools that's far away.
Yeah, and well, previously I used to work at one school only because it was a big junior high school. That's very rare, almost unheard of. Did that for the first 3 years, but now currently my schedule is I work at 4 elementary schools and 1 junior high school. One of the elementary schools and the junior high schools is in the same building, so I visit that school twice a week. And the other schools I go to, it's elementary schools, 3 days a week. And but before, I used to have to take the bus or walk to school, or I would ride a bike, or what they call here a Charlie. But now I get picked up to go to school because my schools are very rural.
He has that fancy school. You get chauffeured.
I wouldn't say that. I say my schools are so isolated. There are no public transport that goes to the school at a time that would be convenient for the start of work. So I get picked up and dropped off to school. So that's very different. Not all BOEs are going to provide that. I think in my case it was definitely because one, city jets in Ojia are not allowed to drive to school because of a previous incident that happened. So this is also a good example of jets creating problems for future jets. So a jet got in an accident how many years ago, and since then no one is allowed to drive in Ojia to school. And secondly, I don't have a driver's license. Yes,
So
believe it or not.
and that's what they also take into consideration. They will ask you if you have a driver's license, and I think this plays a part in where you're placed. So city jets are usually placed very close to their schools, or if not, they get chauffeured like Michael. But
Very rare.
very rare. But prefectural jets like myself often have schools that are very, very far from where they live or their base schools, and they often have to drive there. And no, they don't always help you get a vehicle, and no, they don't pay. A vehicle is on you if you want to rent a car. I rent a car, and luckily my RA at the time had helped me set up this, and it was super simple. So that's also an added expense that I have. But the perks of having a car here, because we live in a car,
Which means countryside.
so the perks of having a car is definitely up there. So the cost kind of outweighs that.
Okay. So